Hi everyone, Stepan here, black again. I always get the black pieces. My opponent's rating is 2165. Last game I played against the 2400 and I beat him. So let's hope we can continue playing well. Okay, we have the quiet Slav. Knight f3 is the most common move. Against knight c3 I usually play e6, even though you can get away with bishop f5. Okay, now we are in a normal semi-Slav. It's going to be a Meran or an anti-Meran bishop g5 lines. Okay, normal Meran. Takes, the bishop can go to these three squares. Okay, against bishop e2 I normally play bishop b7. Now my opponent can castle or play e4. We will see what they do. Playing a6 immediately against bishop e2 is slightly more risky because the queen is controlling the d-file. So against bishop d3 I play a6, against bishop e2 I play bishop b7. Although you can play a6 as well, and in many cases the two positions are going to transpose. But the main reason to play bishop b7 instead of a6 c5 is that the Reynolds attack, which starts after d5 c4. Okay, my opponent wants to play b4. That's a very good idea, playing positionally against c5. So if I play a6, my opponent's going to go b4. So I'll have to play a5 at some point when b4 is played. And it's going to be harder to play c5. a3 is a good move. If I just continue developing with bishop d6, then e4 threatens e5. If I play a6, my opponent goes b4. But that will give away c4. I'm gonna go a5 immediately, I think, or bishop d6 and then on e4 e5. I'm slightly confused with the move order here. I'm not too familiar with a3. So bishop d6, e4 e5, d5 takes, knight takes doesn't work. So I think I can get away with bishop d6. e5. Okay, standard. So if I go a6, my opponent takes on c6, that loses a piece. So take, knight takes. I may have blundered, actually. So cd, knight b5. Queen e7, knight d6, queen d6, e d5 should be fine for me. So I'm gonna play c d5. Okay. I can also go queen b6, although that runs into bishop e3. So I think queen e7 is better. At least now my bishop is liberated. I don't know, I'm gonna have to study this game in great detail. I'm actually gonna use Chessbook to prepare this line and to study it. So we're gonna be using Chessbook at the end of the video along with analyzing the game. If this was a tournament game, I'd feel extremely uncomfortable at this point. Okay? So my opponent grabs a pawn. If I play bishop takes, is there any downside to that? I don't think so. If I play knight takes, there's bishop c4. But if I play bishop takes, there's no bishop c4. I'm gonna be down the bishop pair, that much is certain. And if I don't take straight away, then there is bishop c4 guarding the pawn. So I think I do take. Okay. Should I run away from the pin immediately? I don't think I have to, so I'm just gonna castle. I have knight b6, rook d8. My opponent has a 2-1 on the queen side, but that shouldn't be a big deal. The bigger deal should be his bishop pair. So I think from a theoretical perspective, I have definitely messed up the opening. Also, my opponent's playing very quickly. He still has 15 minutes on the clock. I want to go rook d8, and ideally I would like to play knight f8, knight e6, knight d4. That seems like a good idea. My opponent's looking for a good square for the queen, but it's not easy to find one. When queen a4 runs into knight b6, queen c2 runs into rook c8, queen d2, rook fd8. I definitely think white is better, but I don't think it's a big advantage. Although, once again, I will study this line. I usually run into trouble with bishop e2 most often, out of all three moves. Bishop d3, I know a lot of theory, and also bishop b3 is not an issue, but this is sometimes an issue. Now my opponent is finally slowing down. That's a good sign. He played the opening very, very thematically and very well, and managed to outplay me. Okay. Bishop g5. Trying to prevent rook d8 as an idea. But I'm gonna go rook d8 anyway, because I wanna grab hold of the d file. I may consider queen e6. No, I'm going rook d8 first, rook fd8. This also gives me the idea to go knight e6, which is what I wanted to do. It defends my queen and allows my other knight to move. Of course, if my opponent takes on f6, then, you know, they no longer have the bishop pair, so I don't think that's the idea. Okay. I feel like that runs into knight b6. So I'm gonna play knight b6, gaining a tempo on the bishop. Okay. I could take with the queen, but I don't want to trade queens necessarily. Yeah, I'm taking with the knight. I don't want to trade queens. I would love to play e4, but that gives away the d4 square. However, I will have queen e5, targeting the bishop and the knight. But the knight on d4 will be controlling a lot of key squares. So I feel like my queen belongs on e6. But then I may be running into rook e1. Complicated. Complicated stuff. So rook e1, e4, knight d4, queen e5, knight c6 loses the exchange. Oof, I may have to play rook d8. And that loses a piece. Or I have to recapture an f6 with the g-pawn, which gives up the f5 square. Not easy. This is not easy. I'm actually very happy that my opponent did not play rook e1. This prevents the other rook from developing easily. Do I have e4, knight g4 ideas? e4, knight d4, knight g4. e4, knight d4, queen e5. Bishop f6. I have to take with the queen or knight c6. Okay, I'm playing e4. I'm gonna play aggressively. I'm expecting knight d4, where on queen e5, knight c6, I can take, and on bishop f6, queen f6, knight c6, I can just move my rook to e8. Oh no, sorry, knight d4 loses to knight b6. What am I talking about? Okay, my opponent wants to play knight f5. We are going to prevent that. So either play queen e5 or knight g4. Knight g4 is g3 the only move. Knight g4, g3. Well, that allows bishop f4 later. So I feel like I should start with queen e5. Queen e5. If f4, I can play en passant and then knight takes. I don't like that. I can also play queen e6, which threatens h6. Let's go over knight g4 once again. Knight g4, g3. Do I have a way to get to f3? Yes, I do. I can play knight e5. And then if bishop f4, I can take it. I like that. Knight g4, g3, knight e5. If knight f5, then knight f3 check. Oh, I love that. I love that. Knight g4, g3. Can I throw in f6? Seems scary. Maybe queen f4, queen e5 first. I'm playing queen e5 first. Although knight g4 was extremely tempting. Okay, this I'm happy to see, because now the knight is stranded. And I'm threatening g5, winning the knight. f3, there's e3. Now I'm better. Now I'm definitely better. The knight is completely stranded. I'm also on the b2 pawn, so I may just be winning material. So let's say my opponent saves the b pawn, g5, f4 is the only way to save the knight, and they just take gf4. And I have a protected passed pawn, and the knight is still stranded. This is looking awfully scary for my opponent. I'm pretty sure I'm just winning material. So my opponent played the opening well, but I think they misplayed the early middle game. I have this glass from Lithuania, Švyturys Baltas, back about 15 years ago when I used to drink beer, or this was maybe 12 years ago. I was visiting Lithuania and we went drinking with some friends and I got this glass. I love it. Švyturys. Lithuanian is so nice. It's such a complicated language and every word ends with us. So if you say mandarina in Croatian for a Mandarin, then it's mandarinas in Lithuanian. At least that's how we used to joke about the language. And I met many great people in Vilnius. Mindaugas, if you ever watch this, let's meet sometime soon. Also Danas, Rokas, Dariusz. If you noticed, 3 of the 4 friends I have from Lithuania, their names end in us. It's similar to how Croatian surnames end in ich. Not only Croatian, also Serbian, Bosnian. Yeah, my opponent's in trouble. I also could have taken with the queen, but that would have lost the e-pawn. f4 now runs into queen b2. So it doesn't work at all. Also, yeah, queen b2 is the simplest. And then queen d4. So I feel I'm going to be up a pawn, unless something drastically changes. Knight h4 was a weird move, but knight b6 did lose, so maybe... Oh, yeah, knight d2 was also weak because of knight b6. I don't know. Maybe knight d2 was the best option. Maybe knight e1 was the best option. I wouldn't know what to do here if I had white, because you don't want to lose the knight. My opponent resigned. Okay, feels a bit premature. Feels a bit premature. But let's see. Okay, let's analyze some options. So let's say, okay, first of all, we have to save the knight. I'm threatening g5. So let's say, okay, let's say g3. That's one way to do it. What else can you do? You cannot play f4. You cannot play f3. Let's see. The engine says minus 0.9. The best move is g3. Okay. So queen takes pawn. That's what I would have played. Rook b1 seems likely. And here I would have considered queen e5, d4, e2. I don't think I would have considered queen c3. I think queen d4 would have been my move. Okay, takes. Knight f5. Saving the 7th rank seems logical. Yeah, I don't think this is losing. I mean, it's a pawn up, but I think the resignation was premature. In any case, 2 games in a row. Let's go. Okay, now let's look at the theory. So, a3. Let's see. The best move is still a6. Now I don't like this. a6, b4, a5 seems logical. b4, a5. The rook saves itself, and I'm never playing c5. So what I did, I don't think is bad. Bishop d6, e4. I have to play e5, d5. Wait, d5 is a mistake? d5 seemed great, because if I just castle, I'm down a piece. So takes, knight takes. I had knight e4. No, why didn't I see knight e4? Oh, I didn't see knight e4. I played queen e7, and now the position's fine. Castles is best, but I took... What? Knight d6 is a blunder? Wait, what's with all the arrows? Ah! Okay, let's just leave the best move. My opponent should have played knight h4. Okay, makes sense coming in here. So I would have had to play this. Oh, and then bishop h6. Oh, this is brutal. Okay, bishop d5 was a blunder, knight d6 was a blunder, and now it was just equal. And it was still equal. And it was still equal. And then knight d2 was best. Yeah, this is just weird. Queen e5. Let's just have a look at knight g4. What? Ah, because if I take, my knight hangs. I didn't see this. This is a nice defense, but let's say g3. I was gonna play knight e5. Wait, I'm just losing? Ah, because I lose the e4 pawn. Okay, I couldn't have done that. So let's say I save my rook first. Let's say... Okay, this loses a piece, not that. I'd be pretty happy with this position. Okay, but queen e5 is better. Knight takes. Yeah, and this here my opponent resigned. Okay, a nice quick win. I'm not gonna complain. We're gonna study this line on Chessbook now. Okay, so let's add this to my repertoire. Let's edit something else. So d4. d5. If you guys must have seen Chessbook on my channel already, I use it to prepare for games. So, and I also use it when I have holes in my repertoire. So let's go to this anti-Meran. So let's prepare for takes, 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 b5, and bishop e2. And bishop b7 is the most common move. This move is in my repertoire. So let's say bishop b7. And now let's look at a3. And now we see that a6 is the best move. a5 is also playable. What do I want to do against this? Black scores 43% on my level. Okay. It should be equal after a5. So let's try this a6 idea. So b4 has to be played, otherwise c5. And now a5. And I feel like rook b1 is the best move. If ab, I'm not too worried about that. If bishop b2, I can also exchange. So let's see rook b1. Equal after ab4. So let's say ab4. ab4 is forced. What now? Knight d5. Attacking the pawn. That seems nice. Okay. Knight takes d5 seems good. I don't know what else to suggest. And now the issue is ed5 is bad. cd5 is bad. Oof. Okay, ed5, I have to do ed5. What's this position like? Let's say white just castles. I'm gonna have to babysit this pawn. I don't like this. So let's go back. So what else can we do? What if I go a5 straight away? Then how do I keep developing? How do I keep developing? Let's say my opponent castles. I don't like this. I don't like a5. Okay, a6, b4, a5, rook b1, takes, takes. This is better than playing a5. Any alternative to knight d5? There has to be. I'm gonna try exploiting these two squares, although I am worried about knight d2, knight d4, knight c5. So let's go knight b6. Let's say castles. And now let's give myself the option to take on d5 with the knight. So takes, takes. What's this like? Seems nice. Wow, plus 0.8. Not good. So let's go knight b d5. But it's the same position. Knight takes. E takes. Still. Okay, do I have a way to get into c4? If I can get into c4, then that's nice. Maybe this is a plan. Knight d7, b6, c4. Okay, that's a plan. That's a plan. That seems nice. That seems nice. Also, I could have started... Okay, this is okay. I'm gonna save this to my repertoire. This seems like a big improvement. So obviously I also could have done this on Lichess or on, I don't know, Chessbase or anywhere else and imported the repertoire, but I like to use Chessbook to check out the lines because it gives me the evaluations and it's just easier. So if you would like to use Chessbook, follow the link in the description. It's an amazing tool. You can use it for free up to a point, but if you go premium for $8 a month, you can import unlimited repertoires, and it's great. Try it out for free. Okay, so that's how I use Chessbook. Now I'm going to practice these lines, and I can go to my account. You can see that I have 4,000 moves to practice. I haven't been very diligent because I've been adding a lot of stuff. There are mistakes in my openings. I've connected my Lichess account, so whenever I make a mistake in one of my games from now on, in this variation, Chessbook is going to give me this mistake and let me correct it. So you can see that I have some mistakes here already, and then you can see that this game I played knight e4, played the correct move on the board. This is a great feature. They've added many new features also, and I'm going to tell you more about them in the next videos. Thank you for watching the game. I won 2 in a row. Let's go. Stay tuned for more chess. Bye bye.